Hello, everybody, and welcome back to A&J Gaming. This is your host, Andrew. For this video, I wanted to get into a little bit of EDH speculation featuring cards from War of the Spark. Are they going to be big? Hopefully. This is kind of what I'm guessing are going to be the big ones. Maybe they won't become staples, but I think they're going to start seeing a lot of play once the set ages a little and more people, start getting more of the cards. But starting us off is the one that's already seeing a good amount of play, at least in my play group, Spark Double. 3 and a blue for a creature illusion. He's a 0/0, however he's a clone, so you may have Spark Double enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or planeswalker you control, except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on it if it's a creature, it enters with an additional loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if that permanent's legendary. Alright, I know a lot of people like to play clone effects because, the opponent has something big and scary, you kind of want to take over, but this guy, yes, he only lets you target your own things, but just imagine, read that last part, and it isn't legendary if that target permanent was legendary. You can have 2 Vorinclexes, you can have 2 Jace the Mind Sculptors, you get the picture. He makes, wow, he just really enables a lot of cool stuff because of that last line of text. Again, yes, it does have to be on your field, so it might not be as ever useful as a regular clone that can clone, their big old scary thing. But I think just because of that and the stupid stuff you can do with him, he's going to be a lot more popular. All right, next up, Finale of Promise. Yeah, I know the finales are already seeing a little bit of play, but I think this is kind of going to become more of a I don't want to say it's going to hit staple level, but I feel like it's going to get close. Anyway, it is X and 2 red, sorcery. You may cast up to 1 target instant card and or 1 target sorcery card from your graveyard, each with converted mana cost X or less, without paying their mana costs. Okay, well I like this and or here, because you don't have to have your graveyard full of options. If you only have sorceries, you can still cast this. If you only have instants, you can still cast it. Clearly you'll benefit most from having both, but you have options at least. If a card cast this way would be put into your graveyard this turn, exile it instead. If X is 10 or more, copy each of those spells twice. You may choose new targets for the copies. That's amazing. Yeah, it's going to cost you 12 mana to hit there, but you get to pick up to 2 different spells and throw 3 copies total of each of those spells down. That's 6 spells for 12 mana. That's ridiculous. Think about it this way. 6 spells, 12 mana. Okay, you're playing a whole bunch of 2-drop spells, but what if, because you have 10 mana into this, what if you're picking things like Scour... I'm drawing a blank on the card name. It's 7 colorless mana, instant, exile target permanent. What if you're playing stuff like that? That's 3 exiles. You could play Boundless Realms a couple times. There are so many options with this. It's actually pretty impressive, and I'm really excited to get to using it. But that's why I'm thinking it's going to get a lot bigger than it is right now. Next up, we have God Eternal Bontu. He is 3 and 2 black. Legendary creature, zombie god. Ooh, okay. And he's a 5/6 with menace. When God Eternal Bontu enters the battlefield, sacrifice any number of other permanents. Oh, that's permanents. That doesn't just say creatures. Okay. Then you draw that many cards. When he dies or is put into exile from the battlefield, you may put it into its owner's library 3rd from the top. Okay, that's really cool there, because 1, he's a zombie, and there's a lot of synergy with zombies. 2, he has a little... I'm going to loosely compare it to Disciple of Bolas, because he sacrificed something when it comes in, then benefit from it. No life gain, but other permanents. Jeez, just imagine if you're pooping out clues or... There are so many just spam tokens you'd be able to make that this guy'd be able to eat up. That's awesome. And he's just a really solid black card. 5 mana for a 5/6 menace. It's pretty good in black, period, end of story. Not great, but adding these effects in, I think that's kind of going to catapult him to being pretty widely played. Right, next up we got Teferi, who's kind of a jerk in every iteration, and I think this might be one of the meaner, slightly more aggressive ones. 1, a blue and a white, legendary planeswalker Teferi. Comes in with 4 loyalty counters on him. His passive effect is each opponent can cast spells only anytime they can cast a sorcery. Oh, cool, so it's like what the original Teferi did, but for 3 mana less. Oh, great, cool. +1, until your next turn you may cast sorcery spells as though they had flash. Man, just giving you value right there. giving you a just giant advantage above your opponents already. But his -3, return up to 1 target artifact, creature, or enchantment to its owner's hand, draw a card. Not the most powerful, especially for losing 3 loyalty on it, but that card draw is pretty nice, and just he honestly might get played just for his passive ability alone, but he's just pretty solid all around. So let's see how much more he pops up. I think it's going to be quite a bit. Okay, next up, Nicol Bolas, Dragon God. Blue, black, 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 red. That is a black heavy mana cost, and that's 3 colors. Legendary Planeswalker Bolas comes into play with 4 counters on him for 5 crazy mana. Okay, well, let's read a little more about him. Nicol Bolas, Dragon God, has all loyalty abilities of all their Planeswalkers on the battlefield. Wow. A lot of Planeswalkers have +2s. If I remember right, there are a couple with +3s. That could get crazy in getting them pumped up there. His +1 is you draw a card. Each opponent exiles a card from their hand or a permanent they control. Man, this guy's mean. -3, destroy target creature or Planeswalker. Okay, that's a fairly standard effect. It's still good. I'm not saying it's not. It's just a standard one. His -8, though, each opponent who doesn't control a legendary creature or Planeswalker loses the game. Wow. I mean, just looking at that, how many spells in black and red do you have where you can get rid of creatures and Planeswalkers pretty easily? I mean, in Garruk's Wake for black is just straight up kill all or destroy all creatures you don't control and all Planeswalkers you don't control. And ouch. But even ignoring his ult, I think the ult's going to entice a lot of people into trying him. But even his other abilities are just quality of life. And then you add in his passive ability of he can be whatever Planeswalker he wants to be, basically. That's... yeah, he's definitely going to get played, especially since Planeswalkers are becoming so dime a dozen. Everybody's going to have 1 or 2 in any of their given decks. Next up, Sarkhan, the Masterless. 3, 2 red, legendary Planeswalker Sarkhan. Comes into play with 5 loyalty. Okay, that's cool. He seems to be the first one I've seen so far that's coming with more than 4. Whenever a creature attacks you or a Planeswalker you control, each dragon you control deals 1 damage to that creature. That's really odd for red, kind of creating a wall. The last time I remember seeing that effect was, I think it was in white, actually. You can +1 him. Until end of turn, each Planeswalker you control becomes a 4/4 red dragon and gains flying. What? Okay, you can also -3 him to create a 4/4 red dragon creature token with flying. That's pretty cool. I like that it gives you the option on those. Why do I think he's going to be played more and why he's going to become so popular? He's a red Planeswalker. He's actually a pretty good one, too. There are a lot of dragons in red. So even if he only ends up showing up in mono-red decks or dragon-themed decks, which are getting more and more prevalent with how many multicolored dragons they're printing, I think he's going to be just, one of the first additions anybody's going to make with them. And I think this is the last Planeswalker I have here. I know everybody's probably getting tired of them, but they are new and exciting, and just these passive abilities they have really make them interesting to speculate on. So this is Sauron, Vengeful Bloodlord for 2, a white and a black. Legendary Planeswalker Sauron comes in with 4 loyalty. The reason he's on here is honestly just as passive. As long as it's your turn, creatures and Planeswalkers you control have lifelink. That's great. Yes, the rest of his abilities are good, but just that passive is crazy. You can +2 him, and he will deal 1 damage to target player or Planeswalker. Okay, cool, so he can keep other Planeswalkers in check, and you'll get the life from it. And then you can -X, return target creature card with converted mana cost X from your graveyard to the battlefield. That creature is a vampire in addition to its other types. So he comes in for 4. Right off the bat, you can bring a 3 CMC creature back, make it a vampire. I mean, that helps Vampire Tribal. And even if you don't care about the Vampire Tribal part, just that's recursion. That now has lifelink. And man, I just feel like it's a lot of value. So anything white and black, I think he might, if, they have the slot open, might throw him in just because of that. If it's a creature heavier build, then I absolutely see him popping up. But he's a lot of value, especially for some specific strategies. All right, next up, Role Reversal. I had to pick this one out because that foil is just beautiful. But it is blue, blue, red, sorcery. Exchange control of 2 target permanents that share a permanent type. Okay, looking at the interaction you can have with, because of Theros block having all those enchantment artifact creatures and whatnot, and enchantment creatures, and everything was enchantment. There's a lot of stuff you can really manipulate with this. You can even build a whole deck around role reversal. Maybe not EDH, because I think this is going to be one of the few ones that are cost effective for it. But I mean, if you want to do like a 60 card casual deck with your friends, that would be really fun just to troll them with. But why is this on here? It is the cheapest mana cost, steal a permanent, or rather exchange a permanent thing that I know. And it doesn't say you have to exchange one of your permanents. Okay, maybe I really want to mess with the game. Maybe opponent A is really benefiting from an enchantment, and opponent B is kind of looking at me because they can't get to opponent A, or I'm the weakest link. I could entice them to maybe hit each other a little more. I mean, yeah, that gets a little too political, but even just value-wise alone, maybe instead of whatever permanent in question is helping opponent A, maybe it'll actually hinder opponent B. Hey, maybe I could give away the random crap creature I have and steal an Elish Norn. I mean, there are a lot of options for a card like this, and I think at the mana cost, converted mana cost of 3, I think it's a great point for it. Next up is Storev, Devkar, and Lich. I've already started seeing a couple decks built around this guy, but I think just as a throw into decks, he is going to become a lot more popular. But he is 1, 2 black and a green mana cost, legendary creature, zombie elf wizard, and he is a 5/4 trample. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, I like that addition. A lot of times it says combat damage to a player. Sometimes they're generous enough just to be combat damage effects, but whenever he deals damage to a player or planeswalker, return to your hand target creature or planeswalker card in your graveyard that was not put there this combat. Yeah, he doesn't put back into play, but he only costs 4 mana total, and he's a trampler. He's a good body on him. I think that's a pretty dang solid effect, especially with how it seems like recursion decks are becoming more popular. I know in my group they are, at least, but it does seem that there is a trend of it, and I think he's going to be just an auto-include in all of them from now on. Next up, still in green and black, is Casualties of War, which is, oh my gosh, it's probably the best removal spell out there right now. Sorry, best targeted removal spell. It is 2 black, 2 green. Yeah, it is pricey, but it's a sorcery. Choose 1 or more, and there are 5 total modes you can choose from. Choose 1, choose 2, choose 5, or anywhere in between. But the modes are destroy target artifact, destroy target creature, destroy target enchantment, destroy target land, destroy target planeswalker. Okay, now land destruction, unless you're playing with some really, really vintage cards, is starting at right around 4 mana anyway, so an extra 2 mana to get a possible 4 more targets on top of that. That's, I'm telling you, this is Value City right here. We got on the bus, we had the ticket, we're here, we're not leaving. War of the Spark is just amazing for EDH. And this card, it's going to be a staple for green-black. Ravnica at War, I think this is going to be a white staple because it's a rather selective Wrath effect. I think it's definitely going to be most popular in mono white, but I can still see it seeing play in a couple other color combinations if they don't focus too much on multicolored creatures. But getting into what the card is, it is 3 and a white. It is a sorcery. Exile all multicolored permanents. Well, that's only like, going back through the list here, most of what I've shown you permanent-wise. Okay. Oh, that's most commanders. Yeah, no, I mean, this thing is 4 mana, and it can, like I said, especially if you're playing mono white or you're not super heavy on mono colors, or you're not super heavy on multicolors, that's just, man, that's awesome. This is definitely going to be huge. I'm not trying to say like I am the god of magic or a commander. I'm telling you with certainty, whatever I say is law. No, I'm not like that. But just looking at what it is, what it does, the mana cost, I really feel like this is a solid card. I really feel like Whether it's big and competitive or not, I don't care. This is going to be an EDH staple. Dreadword Invasion. This is pretty neat. It is 1 and a black. It's an enchantment. It's kind of the new Bitter Blossom, or rather like a tribute to Bitter Blossom. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and amass 1. Whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater attacks, it gains lifelink until end of turn. Okay, first off, the Bitter Blossom-esque effect, yeah, they don't have flying, but still, for 2 mana, I'd say that's pretty solid. But then you get into whenever a zombie token you control with power 6 or greater. Okay, that's pretty... You're going to have to let your amass charge up, but I know there are a couple other cards in Magic that give you larger zombie tokens. This is just quality. It's a little slower everything. It's almost like I just guarantee you have some board state. No, it won't make you an army like Bitter Blossom would, but with how expensive Bitter Blossom is, I am entirely fine with that not getting, reprinted. Because, yeah, or it would definitely drop in price a little bit, but I mean, it would go right back up after a week. And if you're not lucky enough to pick up your copies, then you're kind of screwed. So getting a tribute to it instead of a reprint of it, I'm absolutely comfortable with. And I think because of just how solid it is, if you can incorporate it into a zombie deck, I think it's awesome. All right, second to last card here, we have Neheb, Dreadword Champion. He is 2 and 2 red, legendary creature, zombie minotaur warrior, and he is a 5/4 trampler. Whenever he deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, again, I really like that it's not just player now, they give you options. You may discard any number of cards. If you do, draw that many cards and add that much red mana. Until end of turn, you don't lose this mana as steps and phases end. Wow. So, the one thing red always seems to be lacking of consistently being able to get new cards is now not only giving you cards, but almost mana ramping you in a way. That's freaking awesome. I mean, I honestly, once I saw him, I'm like, I really want to build Red Voltron. Am I going to? Probably not. But just looking at him and the trample and the effect and everything, I really want to give it a shot. And I'm sure I'm not the only person who thinks that. And I mean, the art just looks really cool. I'm going to get a nice close-up on the picture there. I'm probably not doing it any justice with my camera. But I definitely think it's going to be seeing a lot of play. Last card, Vivians Ark. 1 in a green, legendary artifact. Pay X, tap it, discard a card. Look at the top X cards of your library. You may put a creature card with converted mana cost X or less from among them onto the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Yeah, you're whiffing some cards to the bottom of your library, but just... if you have enough mana to look at 5... well, it depends on where your deck curves out. But if you can look at the top 6 cards and get even a little bit of value off of that, that's 6 mana, losing 1 card to get some benefit, though. I think that's really solid. And it's only 2 mana to set up. I think this is going to become a green staple, especially if, well, I shouldn't even say especially if, just straight up, it's going to be a green staple. Yeah, you'll lose a couple cards. Chances are you're not going to pitch the cards that are going to get you better card advantage, but just any duds instantly become gold. The more mana you have, it gets better. Green and whatever else you throw into it, it's going to love this card. That's what I'm calling anyway. But thank you everybody for joining me as we went through these cards. Let me know what you think in the comments. Did I misplace any of these? Am I overhyping any of them? Let me know what you think. Leave some feedback. Like, comment, subscribe, etc., etc. And I will catch you next time. Andrew out.